Live from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, it is Geeks with Wives Radio presents The Collection Agency, your monthly look into the world of collecting, featuring your one and only Geeks with Wives comic book editor, Brad Bell. And joining me today, my friend, my colleague, Mr.
Hey guys, this is Barbecue17 from actionfigurebarbecue.com.
And we're doing Collection Agency a little different tonight, just due to some work stuff and scheduling conflicts. We're broadcasting live on air. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, shoot us a shout out. And if there's anything you'd like us to talk about on the pod, we'd appreciate that. Of course, you can always email any questions about the topics we discussed to brad.bell@geekswithwives.com. The main topic up for discussion tonight is going to be San Diego Comic-Con 2015, along with Ani-Com 2015 going on right now in Hong Kong. Jerry and I have something special planned for those topics, but we're just going to go ahead and get started with what we've been checking out in the world of collecting between now and the last time we spoke last month. So, Barbecue 17, I think
Yes,
you got
sir.
something pretty special that you want to tell our listeners about that you've been checking out.
Oh, I did get something pretty special in the mail. So I've gotten a couple great things this month. I actually picked up the Creeper from the Batman animated series line, or New Batman Adventures by DC Collectibles. I got my San Diego Comic-Con 1966 Batgirl, which was a Toys R Us exclusive. It's a decent figure. It's not it's not great. It's pretty much like the rest of the 1966 Batman series from Mattel. Picked up a couple reaction figures. Got Quinn from Jaws, so that was nice.
From Jaws, as us Southern people say, we say Jaws.
Jaws.
Hell in there.
But
I made fun of that, Jerry, saying Jaws.
Jaws. But probably the greatest thing that I picked up is the premium format Batgirl from Sideshow Collectibles. Thank you. Yeah, hit it about 2 more times. So that's exactly it.
Jerry's first premium format figure. I know you have the Hot Toys Resident Evil's Alice, and I think you have a Sideshow Indiana Jones 1/6 scale.
I have a Sideshow Indiana Jones. I have the Hot Toys Alice, and I actually have some of the old Sideshow Universal Monsters figures from when they used to do kind of the 7-inch scale, 6-7-inch scale Universal Monsters figures, probably in the early 2000s. One of the earliest things I remember Sideshow doing. But I got this Batgirl in the mail. My wife had to sign for her. It was that kind of shipment, and it's really, really cool. So I have to admit, I'm very impressed by it. Haven't reviewed it yet over at actionfigurebarbecue.com, but I'm getting to it here. I've had a little table in my hobby room next to my Batgirl collection for, probably about 10, 11 months now that I've had just waiting for this thing. And so I finally have a place for her. She looks really nice. I will say one thing. Overall, the paint's awesome. The sculpting is fantastic. The base she's on looks good. The quality is definitely there. It's really heavy. There's a lot of weight to it. One thing, and I got the special edition, so I have the modern head as well as kind of the classic head. The real difference is the hair. The hair is straighter and more flowing on the modern head, where the classic head is a bit curlier looking, kind of a bushier in the back. Kind of reminds you of the cover of the Detective Comics cover that she appeared on originally. But one thing I was a little bit surprised about was I guess I kind of thought the premium formats had a bit more of a mixed media approach to them.
Now, I believe that's like the initial run of premium formats. That's what they were. They were a mixed media statue as far as cloth and your traditional statue material. And It seems like they're getting away from that. It seems like they're getting more to straight up all statue. How was she?
Yeah, so the I mean everything looks really good. The cape though, the cape really is a pleather material with a softer, kind of silkier material on the inside. You know, it has the wires inside so you can pose it you know, dynamically as if it's, you know, being moved by the wind or something. But I like it. I really do like it. And I know it sometimes is difficult to merge in mixed media elements there, but I kind of thought maybe her batarang would be metal, or maybe the boots or gloves would be a bit more of like a, you know, pleathery vinyl material. But everything looks really good overall, so I'm really happy with it. It's, like I said, it's large, definitely the. I think it's
1/4 scale, right?
Yeah,
1/4
it's
scale.
definitely like one of the largest action. Well, it's not an action figure, but it's definitely one of the largest things I own. I think the only thing I have that's comparable in size to it is the NECA Keaton Batman from the '89 film, and I have the old McFarlane movie Maniacs 1/4 scale Ash figure from Army of Darkness. So I'm digging it.
And premium format figures, for those of you that don't know, like Jerry said, they are a mixed media figure typically, but they're more of a statue. Sideshow, they're known for being the distributor of 1/6 scale Hot Toys, but they do not manufacture the Hot Toys. That is a company in Hong Kong. They have 1/4 scale, which is your premium format. Those usually run from $375 to $600. Depending on your character. If it's something like a Batgirl, you're on the lower end of that. If it's something like Apocalypse or the Hulk or a larger character, to be 1/4 scale, it's only going to be naturally bigger. Then you're looking at probably a little heftier chunk of change. Then they have their legendary scale figures. Those are 1/2 scale. And they're a mixed media, and we're usually talking $1,700 to $2,200. And yes, for those plastic surgeons living in the real Hollywood foothills who are nerds, there are life-size figures, and you can only imagine how much those cost. I think the Iron Man was around 10 grand that they did for Iron Man 3, the Mark 42. So that's a little bit about Sideshow. Jerry, I love the premium format. I'm not a poser like you, right? Definitely not a poser.
Call me a poser?
Exactly. No, I'm a lazy collector. I'm a self-professed lazy collector, meaning if you're watching live, you can see my Hot Toys case, and we do have a few viewers tuning in. We appreciate that. I get them in a pose that I like, and I'll generally leave the Hot Toys there for about a year, and then I'll switch it up a little bit. But I like my premium formats. I have the Vader Mythos, which I guess technically isn't a premium format, but it's in that scale. And then I have the Anakin from Episode 3, which is a premium format. And yes, I did used to have the Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street. Right, Jerry?
Yeah, I remember that. That's the one that came broken, right?
Yeah, $400 figure, and it's broken. But Sideshow was nice enough to take care of that after I provided video evidence that I destroyed. What had happened was his glove came broken, and they made me send photographic evidence that I destroyed the original before they would send a replacement. So I had to smash it with a hammer, take 3 or 4 pics, send it to Sideshow. Then 6 weeks later, they sent me the new Freddy glove. But I ended up selling that for a pretty profit when I sold off my horror collection to pay off, to help pay for a down payment on our home right before we got married. But I love premium formats. It's the long, short version of this story, because when people walk in the room, they're going to notice your Hot Toys if you have them in a case. But if you have a premium format, and I think Will, who hosts the Capes podcast, Jerry, he won a free Mark 42 premium format Iron Man figure
From one of the Sideshow drawings or something.
Yeah,
They do on their Facebook.
It was called Stark Week, and you can find it
Gotcha.
on the Geeks with Wives YouTube. Just search Stark Week, and Will is dancing as Tony Stark, and he looks very similar to Tony Stark, ruggedly handsome. He could pull that off a lot better than me. And they sent him like a $425 premium format. It took a year. But you walk into a room, Jerry, and I have not been over to see your Batgirl figure, but that's going to be the eye catcher, right?
Next to the giant mess on my desk, yeah. Yeah, my desk is pretty messy right now. But yeah, you definitely walk in and you notice it. And I mean, it is. It's huge, and it just really does attract. It just really does draw your attention to it.
And Jerry, I'm glad you brought up the Funko Reaction Jaws line, because I actually picked that up for my wife, and I have not taken those figures out of the box, but I dig that line. That packaging is beautiful on that shark, man.
Yeah, it's really nice. So I only have Quint. I have a Jaws sitting in my pile of loot at Big Bad Toy Store, but I'm just waiting for a couple other things to hit before I ship it. I really want the Comic-Con exclusive. Quint's got that he's bleeding and he's in Jaws' mouth, and
I saw it in person yesterday. I visited Rebel Base, which is a local comic book and toy shop here in Charlotte, North Carolina, eating with some friends at a restaurant called Leroy Fox's. Very nice establishment out there. And it was right beside Rebel Base, Jerry. And I said, all right, we have to go in here before dinner. So I dragged my wife and two of our friends through there. And sitting right there is the Quint variant of the shark figure, Bruce the Shark.
How much were they asking for it?
Yes, it was $50, Jerry. And that's a bit steep because I know the regular version was $15.
Yeah, so tack on the extra figure, 20. So I want to say the Comic-Con exclusive itself sold for about $30 from Super 7, so about a $20 markup, which for a Comic-Con exclusive and being sold at Rebel Base, that's not as high as I thought it was going to be.
No, they have some high markups there sometimes. One of my friends almost walked out with an original Megazord for $200, but he did.
Sometimes they have markups, and sometimes they have really good. I mean, you get really good deals there. So I bought a ton about 3 years ago. I bought a ton of vintage Ninja Turtles, complete. They were bagged, but they had all the accessories with them. I probably bought about 20 from them for maybe $2 and $3 a piece.
If you're ever in Charlotte, North Carolina, in particular, if you go to Heroes Con, take the time to go to Rebel Base comic book shop, because the action figures alone there are really worth the visit, and you just find some stuff from your childhood like every time you go there that in package, and it just brings back so many memories. But Jerry actually introduced me to that local shop, so we're always all about local shops here at Geeks with Wild.
It's a fun place. I actually got to visit a local shop, so we went back to my family lives in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So last week for vacation, we went to Hendersonville, went to the Great Escape, which is a series. There's about 3 or 4 of them now, but it's a record store in Nashville, Tennessee. They actually sell real records and vinyl and movies, but they sell a lot of action figures, and from time to time you'll find some great stuff there. And so I went to my favorite one, which is in Madison, Tennessee, and that's where I picked up the Creeper. So.
Nice.
I got it because I love Batman villains, I love Batman figures, and I have a friend that, long story short, we call him the Creeper, and so when he came over to my parents' house for a game night, I had the Creeper figure hanging out on a shelf, and just kept making references to something until he finally was like, "Yeah, I see it." So
is this the same friend that is eerily similar to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
He's a turtle. Okay. He's a turtle fan as well. But the name the Creeper popped up one time, and he hates it. So I can't. I can't say his name on here, so
Yeah, no, I don't. No, you don't have to say his name.
I had it perched, sitting on top of a bookshelf at my parents' house, watching down as we were playing the Settlers of Catan, and he appreciated it.
And it really took him back to his high school days.
Ouch.
All right, now let's talk about one more thing that I'm curious about on your checking out list this month. You talked about the Mattel Batgirl, 66 Batgirl. I've been notoriously just hard on that line because I was so excited for it a couple years ago when they rolled it out at Toy Fair, and I was disappointed. And you said she's in line with, pretty much everything they put out. But did you pick this up at Toys R Us? Because wasn't it a Toys R Us exclusive?
It was a Toys R Us exclusive that was sold through Comic-Con, and it was sold on ToysRUs.com.
So now I've heard
that a lot of the exclusives are appearing at Toys R Us stores. Some people have found the Jaws and Quint figure at Toys R Us on an end cap.
Wow.
But I paid the retail price for her, and whatever the shipping from ToysRUs.com was. So I paid not a scalper price for it. But craziest thing about Toys R Us, man, they ship the packaging's not that huge. It's probably the same size as a Star Wars Black Series figure, the 6-inch ones, or the Marvel Infinite. But man, I mean, the box that they shipped her in could have held like a 1/6 scale figure, or a toaster oven, or something like that. This massive box was sitting out there, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Because you pick it up
before you got the premium format. So did maybe you think it was your premium format?
No, because I knew that required a signature, and I was checking the shipping. It was I'd come back from vacation, and our who was watching our house had all our stuff, packages and mail and everything sitting on the table, and I'm like, there's this huge box, and there's nothing in it, but it was the Batgirl figure. But Toys R Us does that. They must only have 3 sizes of boxes or something, because I ordered something one time. It was a G.I. Joe pack years ago, and I swear that it came in a box that easily could have shipped a Power Wheels vehicle, So I was kind of wondering, did somebody stow their way out of Toys R Us in this box or something and escape during transit? Because it was just a 3-pack of G.I. Joes, and I mean, you easily could have put one of those little Fisher Price cars that red, orange kids ride in them, that kind of thing. So
that's hilarious, because the older I get, the more I dread checking mail. I used to just love to run to the mailbox. Yeah, I used to love to run to the mailbox, and I was always ordering stuff going back to middle school, and see what had come in the mail. It was before they really had online tracking, or maybe they did, and I just didn't keep up with it, just checking every day to see if that thing you ordered's in there. Now I dread checking my mail, just because being an adult, it's the house bill, it's the student loan bill, it's the car bill. I just dread it. Now when I'm ordering something, there's always that, all right, am I going to find some chocolate in this Easter egg as opposed to some rat poisoning when I open up this mailbox? But I tell you,
that was a dark metaphor.
That was a dark metaphor. You got to love it. Only the darkest metaphors on the collection agency. Hell, our name is the collection agency. So, but you dread it. You dread checking the mail the older you get. I
love the mail, man. I love the mail.
Yeah, but you get a package every day. I probably get a package once every 3 weeks or so.
Seriously, some kid was selling magazines, and I bought a subscription to Entertainment Weekly. I mean, because it's fun to read. I mean, it was really cheap too. It was probably $20 for a year or something. But I just love getting stuff in the mail. If I could find one of those old books that was all the free stuff you could order for, I'd probably still be ordering for postcards and stamps, and I like getting stuff in the mail.
It's one thing to like look in the mailbox and you get your mortgage. You're like, okay, you have to pay your mortgage every month. But I tell you what, we were talking about getting packages in the mail. I have recently ordered this giant Batman rug for my collecting room / podcast room here. And I'm really excited about it. I mean, this thing's like 4x6 or so, and it's going to cover up some of the pee stains that my beagle Penny has left on the floor as she christened our new house. But I have this huge package on my doorstep yesterday, very similar to what you're describing. I'm like, oh, it's my Batman rug. And I have kind of not been keeping up with the track. And I open it up, and it's a new cable modem from Time Warner Cable, which has improved my internet speed, and that was awesome. But it's just when you're...
I got one of those too. It is pretty nice.
Yeah. It's just when you're expecting one thing and you get the other, that's always disappointing. But all right, Jerry, I have not been checking out as much as you. I mentioned I checked out.
Nobody has.
No, nobody ever does. But I did check out the Jaws Funko line. My wife is, many people who listen to the Geeks with Wives radio network knows, is a huge Jaws fan. We have the Mondo poster. Now we have the action figures. She's happy with them. She wants to, I want to get your opinion on this, Jerry. She really wants to take them out of the box. But I don't think they're going to be worth anything, but I love the packaging so much, especially on the shark. I do not want to take it out of the box.
Packaging's nice on a lot of the reaction stuff, definitely.
Yeah, and we have this thing like on a shelf in our dining room, or in our kitchen rather. So I just think it looks cool in the package.
Well, my Padawan. So let me tell you what to do here.
I know what you do, but go ahead and enlighten the uninitiated here.
I get a hobby knife or a sharp knife or something that's near me that's bladed, and just slit the edge of the plastic close to the cardboard backer card, and pull the figure out. Get a chance, pose it. When you want to put it back in, just kind of slide it back in. Worked really well for me.
Yeah, I've seen you do that, and you really, unless you're looking close, you can't even tell they're open. But with the shark, it's not going to be that way. I mean, that's a massive figure.
But I haven't seen the box yet. I mean, it's like a cardboard box, right? I mean, with a window in it.
Yeah, and you could probably pop it out of there pretty.
Yeah, can't you just like cut the tape and slide it out?
Jerry. I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Like with my 6-inch figures, I usually always kept them. When I used to collect those, I would keep a lot of them in the box. So I guess it's just the old school collector of me, even though I know it's not going to be worth anything. But
the nice thing is you have some variety. I mean, you can move them around a little bit, or you can put them back in. I mean, the Funko packaging is nice. I will admit, other than when I buy something that's more high-end, like a statue or, a figure that's like, something that's $100, $200, whatever, I get rid of packages. But
yeah, because you would have a house full of nothing.
I would have a house full of packages, yeah. So I keep the Funko reaction. I keep most of them. I don't keep all of them, but I keep some of the ones that are really like character specific or have nice artwork or something. Jaws is one of the nicest looking though that they've done in a while.
For sure. The other
Big Trouble was nice. The Big Trouble in Little China line was nice. The Fifth Element line was really good, but I didn't like the card art. They basically used like the movie art, but removed the actors' faces and stuff. So it's just really bland. It's really bland looking.
Yeah, I checked out another hot toy. I recently added the Man of Steel hot toy 1/6 scale based on Henry Cavill's portrayal in the glorious Zack Snyder film where he destroyed all of Metropolis fighting General Zod. This is one that kind of set on SideshowToy.com since the movie's release and dropped from about $210 or $15 down to $179.99. And I was like, I'm finally going to pull the trigger on this thing. I kind of debated. And I got it. And right as I did, the figure sold out. and then it immediately sold out there, then Big Bad, and it proceeded to sell out on all the major sites. It was just like a run, and this was before the trailer for Man of Steel, the new San Diego Comic-Con trailer. So it was odd to me that there was such a run on this figure, but I was able to get in there and grab it before it hit the scalper market on Evil Bay. But it's classic Hot Toys quality. It was definitely a steal at around $179.
Man of Steel.
A Man of Steel. You got that right.
Thank you. Here all night.
Yeah, absolutely. A Man of Steel. But I'm glad I picked this up. I don't think the outfit's going to change too tremendously from Batman versus Superman from Man of Steel, rather, to Batman versus Superman. So I can just add Batman whenever they inevitably release that, probably around San Diego Comic-Con 2016. So,
which version of Batman, though? We've already seen two really distinct looks.
Yeah, and that may come up when we're going through our San Diego Comic-Con material here. But other than that, that's really all I've been checking out. We're gonna get in. I know Jerry has some Star Wars news, but he's gonna save that for our overall discussion on San Diego Comic-Con primarily. Jerry, the news I wanted to throw out there. Let's jump back to Hot Toys again. Ani-Com, which is going on right now, and it's not a episode 1 fan convention, Ani-Con, I promise. But it's going on right now in Hong Kong. You're getting a lot of high-end 1/6 scale figures revealed over there, which more on that later. But they rolled out the Millennium Falcon, Jerry. I think this thing was about 18 feet long.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
And have you seen the pictures of this?
Yeah, when you're looking at something and it makes the 1/6 scale stormtroopers look small, that's pretty wild.
And you look at that's what I was going to immediately go to, Jerry. You have the Darth Vader Hot Toy that they've just done, along with maybe 100 or so stormtroopers. That's like, gosh, thousands of dollars worth of Hot Toys right there. I mean, probably easily 10 grand in just figures. And they pale in comparison to this. It's a remarkable achievement in collecting, even if it never sells. How detailed it is, and they are releasing the cockpit. We know that. And I think they are going to release and Jerry, being the Star Wars and Wikipedia that you are, what's the game they play on the Millennium Falcon? Do you remember? All right, Dejarik. They're going to release that area with the Dejarik table and those kind of sets that you can pose your Hot Toys in if you collect the Star Wars Hot Toys. But there's no plans to release this. You would have to have a special wing of your house dedicated to it. What were your thoughts, Jerry, when you saw this? Because Hot Toys is kind of bad about saying they're going to do something and then either never doing it, which is oftentimes due to licensing rights with properties and with actors and whatnot. Or sometimes they just don't do it. They promised a Shield Hellcarrier a couple of years ago. They did. It was on the Hot Toys.
We're gonna make a Death Star.
Yeah, I mean that may be next, but to see them actually follow through with that Millennium Falcon, I mean it transcended kind of the toy news cycle. It wasn't just on the Whoosh or Toy News Eye. It was
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. CBR/film.com, geekswithwives.com. This thing was everywhere. So many of our colleagues at the site tweeted it out. And I think it was this overwhelming, just kind of consensual geekasm for Star Wars fans to see that. Because even though hardly anybody, if anybody, will ever own it, man, it's nice to have dreams, Jerry.
I was looking at it. So my first thing was I wonder if it's just like a shell, basically, or if it has any detail inside. I was
Yeah.
curious about that. I didn't see any pictures that really showed anything along those lines. The second thing was really just thinking about. I mean, how would they even begin to realistically ship those to people? You have,
Han Solo will fly it along with Chewbacca
yeah,
to
it
your
actually
house.
works. It's
That's
it's a drone.
yeah, yeah. It's a drone. That's right.
You could fly it around. So
I don't know. I'm just blown away. I would love to see this in person. Hopefully they'll take this because this is in Hong Kong. That's the only place this has been seen in person. I'm actually looking at it again right now. But hopefully they'll tour this around the United States sometime, at least as these Star Wars movies begin releasing. And it's something we'll never own. I just wonder if they'll do what they did with the bat, because there was a rumor and they had promised a 1/6 scale bat from The Dark Knight Rises, but that was just never logistically possible for them to produce. So what they ended up doing was scaling it down to a 1/12. The bat. Do you foresee something like that, Jerry? Because they are doing a TIE fighter for sure.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense that somebody would want a really high quality Millennium Falcon. I mean, arguably the most famous and recognizable spaceship in sci-fi. So, and there's been a lot of enterprises, but Millennium Falcon's been a bit more limited. It's only been the various versions Hasbro has released, and Hasbro has released some very nice. They released the big Millennium Falcon, about 5 or 6 years ago. But I could see the Millennium Falcon being something that a lot of Star Wars fans would splurge on if it were something that they could, manageably have in their house. I mean, even something that took up a coffee table or something that was really high detailed and, I mean, exceptional quality. I could see that being really popular.
Yeah, so get your kidneys ready now for the 1/12 scale Millennium Vulcan, which will be hitting from Hot Toys,
I'm
hopefully.
going to try to win one in a card game.
Yeah, good luck with that, Lando Calrissian.
Working on it, you old smoothie.
All right, so Jerry, do you have anything else for news that doesn't relate to San Diego Comic-Con?
I do not.
Okay, then. Well, let's go ahead and get into our San Diego Comic-Con segment, which is our featured segment this month. The thing is, there's so many big exclusives and breathtaking collectibles that come out of San Diego that it's impossible for us to talk about all the cool things within a 30-40 minute discussion. So what Jerry and I have decided to do, and I cheated a little bit because at the last second I threw Jerry a curveball and I included Ani-Com, which is where they revealed the Millennium Vulcan that we just referenced in Hong Kong. And I said, Jerry, let's make a top 10 list of items from San Diego Comic-Con 2015 and from Ani-Com 2015, which is currently going on in Hong Kong as we speak. And these items are not necessarily items that we're going to buy, or we may not necessarily even be able to afford to buy. But if we had an unlimited budget and we could buy any 10 items from these two conventions, this would be the 10. And realistically, I usually do end up picking up probably 1 to 2 to even 3 things from these top 10 lists, because this is something Jerry and I have done at our previous site for conventions like Toy Fair and things like that. And Jerry knows he's maybe laughing because I end up selling 1 to 2 of the things that I buy.
I was more laughing because, maybe there's 1 to 2 things I don't end up picking up.
Yeah, Jerry's probably the opposite, but I think what you're going to find when we do these top 10 lists, hopefully this is the first of many on the Collection Agency podcast, is that I think we both tend to skew toward what we like, what we collect, and just feasibly me liking Mondo posters and Sideshow and Hot Toys, I could not realistically afford all this stuff. Whereas Jerry's going to be more your Hasbro, your small, not lesser figures, but a little bit smaller figures. So Jerry,
So I also totally, well, I don't know, I cheated kind of. So
okay,
it was hard for me to just, to pick specific figures and things. What I kind of did was the top 10 lines that I found the most,
okay,
that I thought had the most impressive showings this year.
and that's fine. There's no strict rules or guidelines to this. So
Nope, it's a no rules podcast.
So exactly. Let's start with number 10. How this will work. Jerry will give 10, I'll give my 10, and we'll both work our way up to our number 1. So Jerry, let's start with you. What was number 10 on your Comic-Con list?
What was number 10 for me was the Game of Thrones line by Dark Horse. Now, these aren't action figures. They are, to be honest, they're low-end statues. That's what they are. They're about $20 to $25 a piece. They are based on the TV show, and in all honesty, I think they're really nice. They're about 8 to 9, about 7 to 9 inches tall, depending on the character. And what I think is interesting is every few months it seems like Dark Horse keeps adding more and more characters to this line. Now, I've read all of the I've read all the books. I only seen 2 seasons of the TV show. I'm kind of not going to watch any for a while since they're doing some weird stuff with it. But I do like the TV show's representation of the characters. And Dark Horse's line, what's interesting to me, Funko did a 6-inch version of the Game of Thrones characters in their Legacy series that they started shipping last year while Toy Fair 2014 was going, and they've really only made about 11 characters in that line. $20, highly articulated, they have great distribution. Dark Horse keeps going and going with more and more characters. Funko hasn't touched characters like, Sansa Stark or Cersei, and Dark Horse is larger scale, non-articulated, higher price. Funko kind of seems to be giving the message that the Game of Thrones figures aren't selling well for them. Dark Horse just keeps churning them out. We got a Bran and Hodor, Hodor figure.
Who is doing the Joffrey the Iron Throne room? Is that Funko or is that Dark Horse?
Actually McFarlane Toys.
Oh, wow, and they're new on the Game of Thrones line, right?
They are. They have apparently just got the license, and so what they're doing is their version of the bricks themselves have similarities to Legos. They use the pegs, the studs. Todd McFarlane used to call them nipples on the Lego-like bricks. But those are going to be really similar to McFarlane's Walking Dead series. That are you can build them. They're small. They're only about 2 inches tall.
That scale, and you and I have talked about this a lot between the two of us. That weird scale, like one. They're not even 3 3/4.
No, these are small, but the idea is you can build a diorama. So it's like
the prison.
It's like you can, I think about it like when you're a kid and you go to the museum and they have like the battle dioramas or something that you're looking at, or a castle or something. It's something I really like it. I haven't picked any of the Walking Dead ones up yet, but the Game of Thrones ones I found appealing as well. But I just think it's interesting. Dark Horse is still churning these figures out. They keep getting deeper. They keep doing better, and yet they sort of are in an odd scale. They're not articulated, and they're more expensive, and Funko just can't seem to make their line happen. So, just interesting.
You would think it would be the opposite. Funko.
You would think it'd be the opposite, that Funko would be cranking these out. But Dark Horse is moving it along. As a fan of the book, I like the TV show's representation of the characters, and I probably have about 8 or 9 of the figures, maybe closer to only 7.
They're good for lazy collectors like me. If you don't want to pose it,
They always look they always look nice, and they kind of have a nice statuesque quality about them.
For sure, for sure. All right, so that's your number 10, the Dark Horse Game of Thrones figures. So my number 10 involves one of my favorite things of all time, two of those actually, Mondo and Jaws. That's right. Mondo has done another Jaws poster by Nicholas Delort. This is a poster featuring Quint. You actually see Quint in his kind of bait shop and the various skeletons, the jaws of sharks that he has captured and likely slaughtered and probably eaten, knowing Quint, with a cold beer. But we had a big discussion on Mondo because we had a gig poster artist on from Austin, Texas, Alexander Yacarino, who I spoke about on last podcast, his Age of Ultron print. And we were just kind of talking about how Mondo now has transitioned more to a vinyl company, more to a action figure company. And the posters, at least from a quality poster perspective, are few and far between. But they did this one on preview night. Nobody expected it. Anytime they do Jaws, Jurassic Park, E.T., Goonies, one of those big childhood Back to the Future type posters, it's a big deal. And I love this poster. It's different from a lot of the other stuff that they've done in the past with Jaws, but in a very creepy and good way. And you always need more Quint. And it seems Quint was strong in San Diego Comic-Con presence with his also Funko exclusive that we talked about earlier. So that's my number 10.
It
Jerry?
reminds me, looking at the art reminds me of the old Chris Van Allsburg book, the Mysteries of Harris Burdick. I don't know if you've ever
read it.
That very dark. I mean, it's just a book of like a caption and a picture, but it does kind of have that dark, mysterious. Like if you had never seen Jaws, this poster would really. I mean, it intrigues you having seen Jaws as well. But if you'd never seen Jaws, this would be a kind of poster that would make you want to see this movie because you would have no idea what it was about, but your mind would be running, in dozens of different places. Yeah,
and I love the shark's very subtle here, and I love how Mondo with their Jaws posters, the shark has always been very subtle with the classic Martin Anson when they did that we're lucky enough to own. It's like it's a shadow on a beach umbrella. On this one, you just have the jaws of shark literally hung on Quint's bait shop wall there. And it's such an opposite approach from that classic poster where the shark's just front and center. We all know that image. So I kind of like how they flipped that dynamic. That was 24 by 36 poster with a run of 375 by Nicholas Delort. So check that out on eBay. I don't think it's selling for too much if you would like to pick one up. Jerry, what was your number 9?
My number 9 was the Star Wars Black series, the 6-inch scale Star Wars figures. Let's just be honest. Hasbro actually had a really dismal showing at San Diego Comic-Con.
But they were in all the headlines because those first order stormtroopers sold out. And there was a stampede, Jerry. Did you hear about this?
They totally had crazy problems, craziness going on that they were selling the first Force Awakens figure. So, I mean, that was strong, and it was publicity for them. But overall, I'm just not sure how I feel about what we're going to see with the Force Awakens in terms of the traditional 1/18th scale. But I do like the direction that they're going in with Star Wars: The Black Series. It seems like the figures are getting better. We had seen the Ahsoka Tano from Rebels figure at Celebration. We saw an unpainted sculpt or test shot or something. But we saw the full figure here. She looks wonderful. There's a Kanan Jarrus, and he fits in with the aesthetic of the line as well. So it's not like you're looking at an animated figure standing next to your, more, lifelike, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo. He looks like if he had been in a movie or a real person, this is what he would look like. So I like those. I like they talk about we're going to get more Rebels characters like Sabine. They showed a TIE Fighter, which I thought was pretty cool. It's a TIE Fighter from The Force Awakens. Now, a lot of their stuff just seemed really disappointing, but I just don't know what Hasbro is going to do come September 4th when everything shows up.
Force Friday, right? That's
Force
what they're
Friday.
calling it.
Now, I don't know if you have heard that a Myers store. Myers is they have a lot of them in the Midwest. It is a combination. It's like a super Walmart, grocery, retail. A Myers store somewhere accidentally put out. They basically put out a whole aisle of nothing, but they put all the tags up for Force Awakens product.
Wow.
And what is interesting is they talk about there's going to be a vehicle assortment for the 1/18th scale line. There's going to be a Millennium Falcon for the 3 3/4 line 1/18th scale that's going to retail for about $140.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so that's pretty. I mean, that's not as much as the big Millennium Falcon was a couple years ago. So I don't know how large it's going to be or how hollow it's going to be, but it seems like they have some plans. The thing that's a little concerning is the basic figures seem to be about $7.99, which that's
3 3/4 scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is $5 less than they're selling the Black Series, the 1/18th super articulated Black Series figures for right now, because those jumped up to $12.99, which makes me think they're bumping up the price of the 5-point of articulation figures. The ones that were originally intended to be at a value price at about $4.99 or $5.99.
Now let's clarify here, because this can get kind of confusing when you're talking about the Black Series.
Yeah.
You're talking about, there's 2 Black Series, right? There's the 6-inch one.
Yep.
And then those are usually around $20 to $25.
Those are $20, and that was this Myers pricing has those at being $20 as well.
Okay,
and
then you have your, like you're saying, your 3 3/4 Black Series, which is again super articulated, classic Star Wars scale figures.
Yeah,
and those are $12.99. You say
those have jumped up to $12.99, the same as most of Hasbro's Marvel Universe figures in that scale have jumped up to $12.99 as well as their default retail price.
And then you have another set, which is, I guess this is your most traditional Star Wars figures.
Yeah, these are like the retro. I mean, they're 5 points of articulation. They've been called Saga Legends, has kind of been the name, or Mission Series has been the name they've been going by for a few years.
We always say it's the mission to get them in stores.
Yeah. They're they're cheap. They're 5 points of articulation. These are really intended as kind of the impulse buy that parents buy their kids. I mean, some collectors do like them, but it seems like this might be the focus of The Force Awakens. And San Diego Comic-Con didn't really do a lot to alleviate our fears. But I like the Black Series, and if we get the 6-inch Black Series, and if we get a couple 6-inch Black Series figures that are good, I think I'll be happy.
Yeah, real quick before we move on, there's kind of 2 questions I want to throw back at you regarding San Diego Comic-Con and The Force Awakens and the Black Series. Those stormtroopers, we're talking about a stampede at the booth, people fighting like they're looking for Turbo Man on the day before Christmas with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad in their way. It was just kind of a disgrace as far as collectors are concerned. That's kind of one of the things that gives people like us a bad name sometimes.
Yeah.
So I really hated to see that happen at San Diego, and that garnered a lot of attention. And then also, I think that was a $25, $30 figure because it was a little more because it was an exclusive. A minute those things sold, they were on eBay for $100 a pop. And Jerry, you have to imagine that there's going to be another release of a Force Awakens Stormtrooper, right?
I think they've already said we'd be getting one. Every San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Hasbro has done in the Black Series, or I should say both, the Boba Fett and the Jabba the Hutt last year, have been re-released just sometimes with less accessories. Like we didn't get the Han and Carbonite figure yet. We didn't get Jabba's pipe and bowl and everything when he was re-released in stores. So I mean, the Stormtroopers, they're gonna re-release these like crazy. I mean, look how many times they've already re-released the basic Stormtrooper figure. Has been, I mean, they've had 2 Sand Troopers, they've had the regular Stormtrooper, they've had the Shadow Stormtrooper, they've done Han and Lucas Stormtroopers. The same with Clone Troopers. There's been basically 4 reuses of the Clone Trooper body already. So
yeah, so
if they can reuse it, they're going to.
Please do not. It's not worth it to say that you were one of the first people to get it, and even if you're scalping it, come on, guys. I mean, really. I mean, that was bad.
This is the thing, and I do want to talk a little bit about exclusives, and I guess this is a great place to do it. Exclusives always come up this time of year because a lot of collectors really hate them. I mean, it's just, I get it that it's a big draw for San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, the conventions want exclusives. Companies want to be talked about, and having an exclusive, gets people talking and stuff. But it's just frustrating, for collectors that enjoy the figures themselves, enjoy the characters, not for collectors who, just like the rarity and the collectible value, but for folks who like the characters, it's just frustrating all the time. And exclusive is like the nastiest word I can think of when it comes to toys.
Limited edition's another one.
Yeah, I understand. Sometimes a retailer wants an exclusive, and those tend to be easier to find. They come in over time. Retailers like to keep them stocked, but when companies are intentionally limiting these things and not giving folks a chance to buy them later on in some shape, fashion, or form, it really is frustrating. And I will be honest, there have been a number of lines that I've collected that I've quit over exclusives just because I got so sick of, lines that relied on them. So I'll be honest, absolute reason I don't collect G.I. Joe anymore. Maybe pick up one figure a year. They just kept doing exclusive after exclusive. Stopped collecting Mattel's DC Universe Classics because of how many exclusives they were doing and how hard they were to get a hold of. So to me, it takes the fun out of a lot of collecting.
It does. It brings out the worst in people, as evidenced by that incident. But another thing is the TIE Fighter, the Black Series TIE Fighter that they showed from The Force Awakens. Now, this is to fit a 1/6 scale, not a 1/6 scale,
1/12.
A 6-inch.
6-inch, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the price point on that's $169, $170.
That sounds right to me. That sounds like what I...
Is that a little bit steep for a retail line TIE Fighter? We're not talking about a Millennium Falcon here, a TIE Fighter.
Yeah. Once again, I mean, once Force Friday hits and once the movie gets closer and closer, I mean, people are going to be in a Star Wars fever. And think about how big that's going to be, for a lot of, I mean, even if you're looking at a hot toy, I'm not trying to, argue the quality is the same. Yeah. But if you're looking at the item as just being large and impressive, that's going to be a pretty large, impressive item, a 1/12 scale TIE Fighter for under $200. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I exactly see.
It's going to be a display piece. It's going to be a display piece.
which are kind of rare when you're talking about retail lines to find a display piece. That's why I was so curious to kind of get your opinion on that. I have a feeling that will be one that will be, especially on, you're talking about Force Friday and that weekend, that first weekend in September, will be really hard to find.
But I have a feeling because of the price after the initial, it's probably going to be one that's going to be around for a while.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
That's
like
kind of the way expensive exclusives tend to be, other than things like Hot Toys or something. When something's more exclusive than the basic figures in the line, it tends to be more readily available.
And the good thing is maybe this wave of hype for Force Friday will kind of die down. You won't be able to find it. And then maybe around Thanksgiving or so, closer to the movie's release. Now, I'm banking on Hasbro doing something right, okay? So bear with me here. But Hasbro will get more out there. So if collectors like you and me maybe want this as a Christmas gift, they can get it feasibly without going to the scalpers, right?
Yeah, hopefully so.
But again, I have not much confidence in Hasbro. I love the stuff they put out a lot of times. I just think they mismanage their lines, and
they have mismanaged a number of lines for the past at least 2 or 3 years. And one of the, I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but one of the good things is retailers are clearing out their Star Wars sections, I think, in anticipation of Force Friday, to try to have all the old stuff out of there.
Yeah. Which is good. Which is good. That should be their new mission.
Because some of the stuff has been sitting there for about 2 years now.
For sure. All right.
Slave Leia, Greedo, and Obi-Wan.
That was your number 9. I'm gonna do my number 9. We gotta move again. We got a little bit of extra time because it's gonna take us a while to get through this, but we don't want to go all night. It's late here on the East Coast. Let's go with my number 9, the Lego Superman Action Comics #1 set. This is one that kind of was previewed before San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not a Lego guy. I love to admire from afar some of these things. I've never bought a Lego set or vehicle because I knew once I scratched that itch, I would basically become a leper and there wouldn't be much more left to scratch. Again, a dark joke. But, Jerry, to recreate probably the most iconic comic book cover, the one that launched the modern superhero, I just can't believe that it took them this long to make this at Lego. And what a perfect time with everybody talking about Superman with the new Batman versus Superman trailer coming out. I don't know if you got a chance to see this exclusive. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, it's really cute. I mean, I really like it. I mean, it's a, for Lego, I think that's perfectly acceptable to say.
Yeah, for sure.
That they did a great job in recreating just kind of the basic, the basic numbers of the thing. I really wish they would have tried to make the Superman costume look a little bit more like the classic Superman on the cover, because he definitely has the more modern S on his chest, but. It is a neat exclusive.
It's not an S. It stands for hope. Okay.
Well, yeah, but it's an S that stands for hope. So, it's a neat little exclusive, though. I do like it.
For sure. I echo your sentiments. I wish it would have mirrored the S from the cover of Action Comics #1. All right, we're to number 8. Jerry, what was your number 8?
So this was something that was an exclusive at Comic-Con that we're gonna see more down the row, more down the line. So Super 7, they're a company that does a lot of sculpting. They do a lot of the kind of the retro action stuff along with Funko, and they actually did retro action versions of Masters of the Universe. They did a 4-pack that the figures are molded all in one color. They look like old prototypes or test shots, but they did He-Man, Skeletor, Beastman, and Merman. I thought it was neat. I mean, obviously one of the main things that set the vintage Masters of the Universe line apart from other lines was the figures were a bit larger, they were a bit chunkier, you know, they were bulkier, you know, beefed up, steroid-ridden beasts. But it was interesting to see if, you know, just kind of a what-if scenario, if Mattel had gone and tried to make them look more like the action figures of the, you know, the Star Wars Kenner stuff of the late 70s, early 80s. This is what they could have looked like. So
I don't know how that's going to work out, because Masters of the Universe fans tend to like a lot of girth with their things.
Wow. Yeah. So
inside joke there, a little inside baseball there.
Anyways, you know, I think the thing is that a lot of Masters fans are kind of interested in these. A lot of them just seem to be dismissive about it. I think it would be maybe bigger if there were no Masters figures right now, but Mattel had a great showing, and you can probably guess they're higher up on my list.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. Now, I'll say the one thing I liked better than these, though, from Super 7 was they did Masters of the Universe muscle figures that are like the old 80s, you know, Kinnickman / muscle figures, where they're the little unarticulated, you know, pink plastic wrestler guys. They did them with Masters of the Universe. The style was perfect. For being Comic-Con exclusives, I mean, they're just too rare and expensive right now. I'm not pouring the money into them. But
you gotta save up for Force Friday, Jerry. That's
when
why.
Super 7 releases these, and I think all of these are going to get re-releases in more normal colors and things, I'm definitely going to scoop the muscles up. Because I love muscle figures, I love minifigures, and the Masters of the Universe character designs just mesh beautifully with the muscle aesthetic.
Oh, yeah, they do. You bet they do. All right, so that was our number 8 for Jerry. My number 8 is something that Jerry's familiar with. It's NECA 1/4 scale figures, and mine is the NECA 1/4 Batman Begins Batman figure. I caught a view of this over at BigBadToyStore.com, and I thought it rivaled the initial Hot Toys 1/6 scale Christian Bale Batman from Batman Begins, and they really nailed that cowl where you remember that initial Batman Begins cowl. He couldn't move his head. It was just the one molded sculpt, and it was classic. I mean, it was similar to the cows that Keaton and Kilmer and Clooney, kind of didn't say his name there, all had to wear until Bell and Nolan gave him that in The Dark Knight where he could actually move around and see. But, man, they really got the Christian Bale sculpt. I mean, it's Hot Toys level sculpting on this, and it's very affordable for a 1/4 scale figure at $100, $99.99, if you will. And, Jerry, I know you love your Keaton 1/4 scale Batman figure. So I don't know if you got a chance to see this one or not. Have you seen this one?
I did. It is really nice. The NECA quarter scales they're really impressive, and it's one of the things that, you know, you talk about how some companies talk about how, you know, they talk about they can't do things at a certain cost, and NECA is one of those companies that they do all new sculpts, they do beautiful work. I mean, their stuff is amazing looking, and they're always cheaper than what other people are offering in similar scales.
Yeah, and I will say that some of their 1/4 scale stuff it's never bad, okay? It's just what you would expect for $100 1/4 scale figure. All right, like the Man of Steel Superman figure, the Captain America, Avengers, the Iron Man. Now that was a little better, but some of those are kind of like, okay, this is nice for what I'm getting. But with the Keaton and with this and with the Ledger Joker and with the Danny DeVito Penguin, I mean, wow. You want to talk about bang for your buck, even at $100.
Yeah, they're really impressive.
Yeah, really impressive. So if you're interested, check that out at BigBadToyStore.com. All right, lucky number 7, Jerry. What is your 7 from San Diego?
Number 7 is Ghostbusters by Diamond Select Toys. We've known these are coming for a while. Mattel tried their hand at a Ghostbusters line a couple years ago. Yeah, it was not very good. So hopefully Diamond Select Toys walked in and said, you know, back off, man. We're scientists in terms of toy design. And they really have produced some nice-looking figures. Granted, some of the sculpts or, you know, some of the likenesses are not perfectly there, but I think overall they're really cool looking, and they've probably already shown more characters than Mattel did. You know, Mattel liked to go for kind of the easiest things they could do, so, you know, just repaint as much as possible. They have a Janine figure. I mean, you know, they have Zool. Mattel never.
I did see Zool. I was like, this line is going for it.
You know, Dana as Zool's an exclusive, but they have Gozer. You know, they never touched Gozer. Mattel kind of never even got to Gozer, the main villain of Ghostbusters, and they never even got there. So they look really good. The only one they haven't shown yet, as far as I can tell, is Egon. And so they're saving these. They're if you buy all the figures, you can build a display base of the rooftop scene from the end of the first film. But
wow, that's cool. I love when they throw in those dioramas with those.
I do too, and I guess this is probably why I withheld from Mattel's line, because I just knew as you know, someone who loves the Ghostbusters with everything in me, I knew somebody was going to have to do better, and it looks like Diamond Select is, and their Slimer is pretty awesome. He looks like the Slimer from the movies.
I mean, it's an iconic line. I mean, an iconic film. It deserves an iconic line of action figures, so I'm glad Diamond's doing it justice.
Terror Dogs. Mattel never even released Terror Dogs.
That seems like a no-brainer.
With different horns, so you can make the dog, you know, if you want it to be Gozer or Vince Clortho. I mean, sorry, Zool or Vince Clortho. So, amazing.
Okay, so that was Jerry's number 7, Diamond Select Ghostbusters. My number 7 is one I think Jerry will like, and I think he will be maybe surprised it's on my list. It is Masters of the Universe, He-Man and Skeletor from Sideshow Collectibles.
Those are pretty awesome looking.
Jerry, I saw these and I immediately thought of you. I knew you were about to get your Batgirl premium format figure, and you finally got that paid for. Because, I mean, it's an expensive piece. And I was like, one of these may be his next premium format figure.
I'll be honest. So I love Masters of the Universe, but I like the very toy-like quality of Mattel's figures. I like these. They're beautiful. I don't have any interest in owning them, but they are amazing looking. Like, they're really cool. If a movie came out with characters designed like this, I would be over the moon.
When I saw it, I've read, thanks to Jerry being one of my good friends, he's kind of introduced me to Masters of the Universe, because I think when I was a kid, the He-Man movie had just came out, and I had like a He-Man sword and stuff, but it was kind of just a tad before my time, especially the toy line. And I've read comics, thanks to Jerry. We discussed this on a former podcast we used to do together. And I've seen him get Castle Grayskull from the Masters of the Universe Classics, and he's a subscriber to that line, and just the sheer joy he gets out of that line. And over the years of knowing Jerry, I joke about He-Man, but I do respect it as a property, because I know how much that community loves those figures, but overall just loves those characters. And when I see Sideshow, I won't call it definitive, because I guess that toy line is the definitive kind of association that most Masters fans have with those characters, but definitely an upper echelon type treatment. I was blown away by these, and that's coming from somebody who's not the biggest fan of Masters of the Universe, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, I just think one of the things the Masters of the Universe fan community, there's so much talent there. I mean, you will see people reimagine those characters and do all kinds of unique and different things with them. And sometimes being a Masters of the Universe fan feels kind of like an underground thing. Like it just, I mean, it surged in the 80s, but it's just not had that kind of mainstream, pop culture afterlife. Like
It hadn't had a renaissance because there haven't been a big budget film yet.
It really hasn't had that yet. I mean, even in the early 2000s when they launched the new action figure line in the series that was on Cartoon Network through Mike Young Productions, it still really never hit it. But Mattel, I mean, every couple days we're hearing more news about the movie. We're hearing more sort of concrete details. And Mattel is licensing the heck out of Masters. There's been a great art book that came out just a couple months ago. They're reprinting all the old vintage mini comics. They're letting tons of people. We already mentioned Super 7, but Sideshow. Tons of folks are having a go at this property, which just absolutely, it seems like it's paving the way for the Masters Renaissance coming with a film. So
I hope that community gets that experience like people have had with Ninja Turtles and Star Wars and so many other these beloved properties, Marvel and DC especially, right, in the superhero community.
Yeah, Transformers. I mean, even though a lot of Transformer fans hate the movies, it still benefited them in some way. It's led to a resurgence of in popularity of Transformers. So
for sure. And you talk about like last year, you didn't like the new TMNT movie. I didn't necessarily like it either, but the journey.
I was pretty neutral on it. It wasn't a bad movie. It didn't blow me away. I think the second one is seeming like it has the pieces in order to be a lot better.
But my thing was the journey to that movie was awesome, right? And we talked about that.
We were sitting there eating Ninja Turtles pizza. The best Turtles cartoon that's ever aired is on the air right now. Last year, that toy line was doing really well. It was great. I mean, there was all kinds
soda, the Ninja Turtles Crush soda.
We drank Ninja Turtles Crush soda on one of our podcasts. I took my daughter to build a Ninja Turtle at Build-A-Bear. It was wonderful.
And that's cool. And hopefully Masters gets that kind of experience. But let's move on. Let's move on to our number 6 because we need to get through these.
All right.
Number 6, Jerry.
I'm not going to say much about it, but Mattel announced that they are doing Thundercats in the same style, scale, and sculpted by the Four Horsemen as their Masters of the Universe Classics line. I'm not the biggest Thundercats fan, but it is really cool to take that property and really do it in a way that's like, hey, we know these are going to be compatible with Masters of the Universe. If there's two properties that really belong together, it is like Masters of the Universe and Thundercats. They have so many of the same, sword and sorcery meets sci-fi. They have so many of those similar elements going on there. And I think even as not a Thundercats fan, I'm going to be picking some of these up because it'll add to my Masters of the Universe collection.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm the same way. Never been a Thundercats
fans deserve that line.
Yeah, this is the line they deserve, even if it's not the line they need. So, okay, number 6 for you is the Thundercats by Mattel. My number 6, kind of like you, I'm going to be quick with this one. It is the... No, it's not Thundercats. It's the Supergirl Sideshow Premium Format. A lot of premium formats on this list, but it's a beautiful figure. It's going to be great timing. I'm sure they're going to release this around the time the show is hitting its stride, the new CBS show, even though this is the comic book version of Kara. They made her saluting with her left hand. All right, I don't care where you're at, the traditional salute is with your right hand. So they need to fix that, and commenters bombarded them with it. So
that is a really strange...
Just a strange kind of what the F moment. What were you guys thinking? Like somebody had to see this in production, right? And maybe it's not too late to fix it. But, I mean, it just takes away from what may have been the best premium format in a year of the premium format for Sideshow at San Diego. It takes away from that beautiful figure. So I'm just hoping they correct that in production. All right, so that's my number 6, premium format Supergirl figure. All right, we're to the top 5, Jerry. What is your number 5 from San
Number
Diego?
5 is another Diamond Select entry. It's their Universal Monsters line. They've been rolling these out for, golly, it feels about like 5 or 6 years now. They don't flood the market with them, but they're starting to redo some of the figures they've done in the past. They've got a new Wolfman coming out. They've got a better Mummy out there. But I'm really excited. A couple weeks ago at HeroCon in Charlotte, I picked up their Van Helsing figure, which is sort of their take. It's a very Monster Hunter-ish. Think of Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter, Brad.
Yeah, great film.
One of our first movies we reviewed together, in fact, on our old podcast. But anyways, it's a real take on different characters like that. The Van Helsing, he's got a bandolier of stakes and stuff. Well, they've got another one coming out, and they've shown her for a while, but it's Anna from the, Lucy Westeros from Dracula, but she's done as like a vampire hunter. These figures have beautiful bases. Diamond Select, their stuff always really does look very good, and I'm just a sucker for any kind of horror figures, so it's exciting to see these coming out. I know I'll pick up a couple of them.
Yeah, I saw the Van Helsing. I think that was one of the previews that Diamond put out there. And
so that one came out last year. I own that one.
Okay.
But the Lucy
I guess that's why I saw it.
Yeah, Lucy is a new figure. So, as is the Wolfman, and I think the Mummy, and they've got some other ones coming out too. But Diamond stuff is really good. I just, their stuff is rarely ever hard to find too. They're good at distribution. They're good at designing stuff, and I'm a fan.
All right, so my number 5, Jerry's number 5 was Universal Monsters from Diamond Select. Mine is another Mondo. Last time Mondo appears on my list, I think the best posters they've done this year were at San Diego. That speaks volumes to the kind of the lack of quality that they've had this year. But it was an 18 by 36 by Daniel Danger, very new, up-and-coming, good artist for Mondo. He did an incredibly detailed poster. Jerry, if you can, check this out. Look this one up for the film Crimson Peak. It is the Guillermo del Toro. Proud of myself for pronouncing that semi-right. Horror film starring Tom Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain's in it too, I believe. Coming out this October, kind of an old Victorian era haunted house movie, and it's Del Toro as Hiddleston. I'm really excited for this movie, especially as hitting at the fall. It's rare that horror movies hit the cinema in the fall, so I think it's going to be cool to see somebody like Del Toro bring that to us. And man, I wish that this was the main poster for that movie, because I know whatever they put out will not touch this. Just detailed.
Which one is this? The one that has kind of a skull, like a female ghoul of some kind, holding a finger up to her mouth? Or is this the one that's
the house?
The house next to each other, blue on one side, red on the other.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it is really nice.
It is. So if you get a chance, check that poster out. I would love to own it, but quite frankly, I'm running out of wall space at this point, and I've had to get rid of a lot of horror stuff just because it gives my wife the Jeepers Creepers. But
really, is that it?
No, that's not it. The thing was,
I've
talked about this before. I had to part ways with some stuff to make a little money, and it was just the horror stuff was what was easiest for me to let go of. So that was my Number 5, maybe I'll break my rule. That poster is limited to a run of 325, so that one may be a little pricier on Evil Bay right now.
I really like the way he does the light, like the light shining in.
That had to be very hard to capture.
Yeah, from different sources. It reminds me like of an old etching that you'd see in a book, which feels appropriate for the source material.
And there's 2 versions. There's a green one and a red one.
Green and red. Okay,
I
looks
like the green one better.
I'm looking at them next to each other. I think I'm more partial to the red, but they are very nice.
All right, so that's my number 5. We're into our top 4. Jerry, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is once again, NECA's been doing a number of these. I kind of call them ultimates, and I think they've been sort of using that term too. Like they've got an Ultimate Terminator coming up. They did an Ultimate Freddy Krueger last year. They have an Ultimate Leatherface coming up, but they've announced a Jason Voorhees, which it's been a while since there's been a nice, really good quality Jason Voorhees action figure. They've also got a great Sarah Connor figure coming up. She's got different hairstyles. She comes with a ton of weapons. And just looks really good. We're seeing so many, like Hasbro and Mattel sometimes just seem like they expend bare, minimum effort and talk about how, costs are rising, and NECA does these nice, high-quality figures, and they're really affordable, about $25, and they come with so many things, extra portraits, lots of weapons, alternate hands. I'm really liking what NECA is doing. They come in nice, even 5-panel boxes. So great stuff. They had a good showing. There wasn't anything with NECA that just wowed me this year, but the Ultimate lines definitely are exciting.
Don't you have the Freddy Krueger Ultimate?
I do. Yeah, I have the Freddy Krueger from the first movie, and it's great because he's got extra heads, he's got the removable face, he's got the telephone with the tongue coming out, he's got the alternate hand with the the cut off fingers spraying green blood. Just a real quality piece. One you just can really be proud that you own.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were a kid and you had that figure of whatever property you loved, and you're like, if only it could do this from the movie, and if it could do that, and you kind of came up with creative ways to make it do that as a kid. Well, with these NECA Ultimate lines, they actually do everything the character.
Yeah, and instead of having to buy multiple versions of a figure because, this one has a different head sculpt, NECA's putting the head sculpts in there, charging a little more, and you feel better about it.
And I think it's kind of the definitive edition of those, at least from an action figure standpoint, from what I've seen. So that's cool. That's Jerry's number 4. Mine is DC Collectibles. They released 3 Batman versus Superman statues, 1/6 scale. There was the Batman in the regular suit. There was Superman, his regular costume. And then they showed us the image of their armored Batman 1/6 scale statue with a base that was the logo for Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. And I saw this, and I was like, this is a high-quality statue that rivals Sideshow, that rivals Hot Toys, that I believe retailing for right around $130. And it's going to be releasing in February, probably about a month before the movie comes out in March. I was really impressed with this, Jerry. DC Collectibles just seems to get better and better and better.
They have really been they really have been upping their game. Their sculpts have always been wonderful. Their paint quality has been pretty good, not always in their statues, but they've really been upping their game. And I love the armored Batman. The armored Batman statue is pretty awesome.
Now, you know that Hot Toys is going to have one that lights up, the eyes do, and it's going to be insane. But that will probably be a $250 to $275 figure. Whereas
it seems like $300 is starting to be the entrance price on those now.
On those upper echelon ones?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. So It's a nice, yeah. The Batman armored looks really good.
And this gives you a chance to own a high quality armored Batman from that film without breaking the bank.
And in all honesty, who doesn't want to own a high quality armored Batman?
And in all honesty, who lights up their eyes on their figures anyway? Like my Hot Toys Iron Man, I turn the lights on maybe 1 or 2 times to show friends, but you don't leave them on because the batteries are like insanely complicated to replace.
I bet they are, yeah.
And that was one of the problems. The Avengers Age of Ultron Hot Toys figure, the Ultron figure itself, which is massive because he's a big character, it looks incredible and breathtaking. But when the eyes are off, it looks terrible. And it's turned a lot of people off to that figure. And on SideshowFreaks.com, which is the forum for the Sideshow Collectibles website, a lot of people have canceled that pre-order because they saw it at Comic-Con with the lights off. I think the batteries actually died because they had the lights on for the display.
It'd be really nice if there was a way, like, it came with a little plug to plug in the back of the figure so you could just, like, leave it.
See, premium formats do that. With my Freddy Krueger that I had, like, it had a boiler room stand. And
That's
it lit up,
yeah.
And it does have a DC adapter where you can plug it in.
When you had that, I mean, did you just, like, when you went to bed at night, did you just, like, turn it on to have it kind of glowing or something? Or
the first couple of nights I had it, I actually did leave it on.
I know. So I sleep with next to my bed.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of, like, the little October Toys OMFG figures that are glow in the dark. And I keep them by my bedside lamp in a little clear plastic box so that when I turn my lamp off at night after reading, my little guys glow in the dark.
That's great, Jerry.
I think it's really cool. So
yeah, but it's just disappointing because I just
I hear what you're saying.
So many people are gonna get that Ultron figure and they're gonna be, oh wow, and then the eyes are gonna not burn out, but it's just gonna look subpar. So that's disappointing. Hot Toys did have, that's one of the big missteps, but I'm going to talk about one of the other when we close out. All right, so that's number 4. What's number 3 on your list, Jerry?
All right, here's where it gets a little tricky. So number 3 for me was DC Collectibles' overall showing of their 6 to 7 inch lines. They've got the DC Comics, the Icons line coming out, which is actually 6 inches, but they're a little smaller, but they're designed more to fit in with, you know, Mattel's DC Universe Classics figures or Hasbro's Marvel Legends. But these are really cool because they're very comic specific. Like the Joker figure is not just a Joker; he is Joker from Death in the Family. So he comes with a crowbar. He has an appropriate gun. You know, he has the sculpt is all in a unified style, but the outfit matches that particular book. The same as I think Harley Quinn is from. I can't remember if she's from Hush or gosh, what's the one where the Gotham became a disaster zone?
No Man's Land.
Yeah. So those are really cool. The animated series line, I mean, the characters that they're producing for that are insane. We're getting Etrigan and Clarion the Witch Boy as a 2-pack.
I saw that.
Zatanna is coming out, an animated Commissioner Gordon.
Wow, that Commissioner Gordon was awesome.
I know. And I really like DC Collectibles, their designer series. They've got a Lee Bermejo line. I mean, that Batman looks amazing. The Darwin Cook line looks good too, but the Lee Bermejo line is just really, really impressive.
I'm surprised, Jerry, that they're pushing so many of these creator lines. It seems like when they do Jim Lee or Alex Ross or Frank Miller, like those always sell. But the Greg Capullo line did not sell well. Big Bad's been marking some of that stuff down to under $10. So
yeah,
it's figure it out.
Popular, but I'm not sure why it doesn't seem like it sold well. But I don't know if places over ordered initially or what the deal was. But there's more Greg Capullo stuff coming out too. So I love it. I mean, I really like those Greg Capullo figures, and I like DC used to do a lot of very artist-specific figures. When they really first got started, and kind of in the early 2000s, and then they kind of moved away from that. But I like that they're going back. Like, I love the Darwin Cook Harley Quinn, and I love the Lee Bermejo Batman they have coming out. So DC Collectibles, I'm going to mention them one more time on another slot in my list because I want to talk a little bit more in depth. But overall, their 6 to 7 inch action figures just really wowed me. I mean, I haven't seen much of Arrow, but I even thought their Arrow figures looked really good. But their Batman and general DC stuff was just fantastic.
Okay, so your number 3 was DC Collectibles. Mine goes back to Sideshow for the last time. One more premium format, the Loki from Avengers, the first Avengers film. 1/4 scale premium format figure. The detail, the sculpting on everything from his staff to his helmet to his cape is simply phenomenal. And we know people that love Tom Hiddleston are going to eat this up. It's not just going to be your Avengers, your fanboys. Tom Hiddleston has a massive following in his own right, and I expect this one to be a premium format that will indeed sell out rather quickly. It was almost my top for this year, but 2 other things kind of caught me by surprise.
I have a friend, and I knew she liked her some Loki, but I never would have. I never would have imagined that she would have bought the Loki hot toy. I mean, that's one of those things that you're like, toy collectors are like, it feels like a toy collector's secret, hot toys. And she bought this Loki hot toy, and I'm like, oh my gosh! I mean, you really have to like Loki or Tom Hiddleston to drop a couple $100 on that. So there's a built-in audience for this one, absolutely.
Yeah, and she got that like it cost. I think she paid like $200 for that.
Definitely.
And she probably doesn't even know that's a $400 or $500 figure now. Yeah. But she won't be parting ways with it. But yeah, that's my number 3. We're into the top 2.
Top 2.
And Jerry, before we start the top 2, I'm going to say this is where I cheat because I actually picked 2 items from Ani-Com that's going on in Hong Kong for my top 2. I like 2 things from there better than anything at San Diego. So let's get to your number 2.
Number 2, Masters of the Universe Classics. Let me just give a little history. Last year, they advertised that 2015 was going to be the last year for this line. Scott Knightlick, the past brand manager, bit of a divisive figure in the Masters of the Universe fan community.
Is he Toy Guru?
He's Toy Guru, okay, yeah.
That's what
said that this was going to be, 2015 was probably going to be the end of the line. They talked about, the line would be over. Maybe they'd do some other stuff here and there. He resigns from Mattel in October. New folks take over. Whatever happens, next year we have the Masters of the Universe Collector's Choice line. Same scale and style, more fan-demanded characters. Despara, which is Adora when she was working with the Horde. Lots of great characters. There's a Filmation subscription that is based on the characters as they looked in the Filmation cartoon, which is a little different. Some of the characters are much more, He-Man has a very specific look to him in the Filmation cartoon. Skeletor has a very specific look. So some of those A-list main characters get their own version. And Mattel showed Snake Mountain. Castle Grayskull felt like one of those things that we never really expected to happen, and it did. It's massive. It's well done, despite some people, complaining that they thought it was a little smaller than it should have been. It is an amazing toy. And we're talking like right now, what toy line gets vehicles these days? Very few. Maybe Star Wars.
That's about it.
Yeah. What toy line gets giant beasts? Very few. Masters of the Universe has gotten all these things. It's gone on since 2008. Every month new releases, at least one new release every month since 2008. And now we're getting a second massive playset that is larger than Castle Grayskull. At this point, they might have to downsize it a little bit, but it's going to be huge. It's awesome. I am excited, and I'm pumped for this. I'm ready to keep this train going.
Now, Jerry, did we get a retail price number on that?
We don't. I think they're wanting to keep it around $300 or less.
That's what Castle Grayskull was, around that much.
Yeah, I want to say Castle Grayskull was actually a little cheaper for people who pre-ordered, and then when it went on sale, and I don't remember how much it was, but when it went on sale, it was, more expensive for folks who were buying it without ever having pre-ordered it.
That line seems to be getting better at giving those fans what they want.
Yeah, it really does seem like it just keeps going and going. And that's what's interesting to me is Masters of the Universe doesn't seem like a line that has the kind of fan base, you wouldn't think it initially, but it just keeps going. It just keeps going more and more. I've already subscribed for the collector's choice line. We haven't heard anything about Snake Mountain yet, about pre-ordering. That's going to still be a while. And the Filmation line hasn't announced anything yet. They have dropped the scale of the line a little bit. One sub is going to be every other month. The other sub is going to be every other month. Probably about the same number of figures, but you don't have to subscribe for everything. So
okay, that's good. And I think the reason it's been around is because diehards like you have kept that line alive through MattyCollector.com and the subscription-based service. And there's been so many times I know some people dropped out or they wanted to drop out, but they just stuck with it because they didn't give up hope on that line.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's paid off.
One of the interesting things is Mattel also showed that PowerCon is a Masters of the Universe fan convention. There were 3 shows over the past 4 years, and the last show didn't happen. It got canceled for various reasons. But anyways, there's a show going on next year, and they actually managed to get 3 exclusives as well. They're repaints. There's a repaint of Beastman, a repaint of CobraCon called CamoCon, and a repaint of Granomir, which is a large dragon figure. But it's interesting that they got some exclusives to this convention. On one hand, it's good for them. In another hand, this line has really survived by people who were just willing to, pluck their debit card, credit cards down and say, charge me for everything. So here's hoping that the people who've been supporting the line will be able to continue to get, all the figures that are released that they want. We'll see what happens.
So that's your number 2, Masters of the Universe Classic. Mine is from Hot Toys. No surprise, they're going to take the top 2 on my list. It is the miniature Anthony, Ant-Man, and Yellow Jacket set.
Anthony!
That they're releasing. I think it's going to give you, now it's not going to be cheap, none of their stuff's cheap, but it's going to give you an affordable price point on a Ant-Man collectible, and it's just Hot Toys. Not thinking outside of the box, because Hasbro did something similar to this with an ant and a miniature figure, but to have a small figure with it's not a ton, but a little bit of articulation, I just think that's going to make a cool display piece, especially if you do have the bigger Yellow Jacket and the bigger Ant-Man to go along with that. I just thought that was cool that they were going to do that figure. Now, I'm really impressed by it. Didn't make my list, but gosh, that Yellow Jacket costume was so cool. And to see that Hot Toys is going to go through with making that one's going to be very tempting when that pre-order comes around.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
All right, Jerry. Without further ado, time for our number 1 of San Diego Comic-Con / Ani-Con. 2015. All right, Jerry.
All right.
Number 1.
So number 3, I gave DC Collectibles. Just most of what they're doing was really exciting to me, but I am jumping in and giving another nudge to DC Collectibles because of their Arkham Knight line.
Okay.
I really think, yeah, for my money, the Arkham universe from those games, from Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins, it really is probably my favorite interpretation of the Batman universe. I like the story, I like the way they handle the characters, and I have really enjoyed the toys that DC Direct and DC Collectibles have been putting out for quite a few years now. We're really getting a massive collection of all the Batman family, all the different villains, side characters in a very consistent scale and style. They look like they belong together, and I really am a huge fan of that. They showed some more figures from the Arkham Knight line, and we're getting Man-Bat. Hope that's not a spoiler, but Man-Bat from Arkham Knight. We're getting Professor Pig, who has a... What is it?
I saw him. What a beautiful figure.
Once again, here's a fairly recent, in terms of Batman villains, and it's amazing that, we're getting him in this line. We're getting a new Azrael. They've showed Commissioner Gordon and Catwoman and Robin and Nightwing before, but it's cool that we're getting those characters. And they did not show it, but there was an announcement that there is apparently a 2-pack of Barbara Gordon as Oracle, which is really cool because that's such a huge part of her storyline, and a Batgirl figure that's coming out in the future as well. So it's exciting those are coming out, but the Arkham line just seems like it has such legs, and really every new character in there just feels like it's building this massive collection that's been building for a few years. So it's cool to just keep adding new Batman villains and heroes into that very, very, very grim-looking version of Gotham City.
It's grim, but it's still fantastical, right?
It is,
That's what makes it so great.
It's not the grim and gritty where it's like everything has to be realistic. It still
like
feels
the Nolan
like
movies. Yes.
It still feels like a superhero universe, but things are just a bit darker versus being kind of over the top or lighthearted or anything.
Absolutely, that's a good choice, but not a surprising one. Just like mine won't be surprising. It goes to a single Hot Toys figure. My number 1 is the Hot Toys Quicksilver. It didn't show up at San Diego Comic-Con. People were distraught. They've been begging Hot Toys on their Facebook page, on the forums. We want a Quicksilver figure. They didn't have the licensing rights to do one for Days of Future Past, the Evan Peters version, so they wanted to do one for Aaron Johnston, who was actually pretty good as Quicksilver, despite how worried we were about him after Godzilla. And he's here. He looks great. It's going to look great on the shelf next to the Scarlet Witch figure that they revealed about a month and a half ago. And Hot Toys has really, with these last round of reveals over the past 3 months, with showing their Batman Returns line, with showing a Quicksilver figure, with finally showing the Drax figure from Guardians of the Galaxy, which was tied up with some Batista licensing rights.
I was waiting for you to mention Drax.
Yeah, because that and Batman Returns have probably been the 2 most requested things, right? And when Back to the Future was requested forever, but now we're getting all of that stuff. And to me, I wanted the Quicksilver the most. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters, very unique character, and I'm looking forward to adding the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. That will probably be my 2 Hot Toys for this year, along with Hawkeye. but I got him with some rewards points, so I really didn't have to buy him. So I'm not counting that from the piggy bank. Jerry,
Gotcha.
but did you heard the controversy around Drax, I guess?
No, I guess I haven't.
I mean, there's not really much of a controversy. It was just delays, and Hot Toys
okay,
is
sorry.
really
I
bad
thought you meant
about.
something. Yeah, they've announced everybody else. Other figures have been released, and Drax has just kind of been like not, nothing said about.
Yeah, and
They
everything.
they ever announced that Arkham City Batman yet?
Yeah, he's out. You can buy
is he
him
out?
now at Big Bat. He's shipping right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I know a couple years ago we talked about that had been shown for a while and never released, and I'm glad he's out.
The one now, kind of the great white whale of Hot Toys, is the James McAvoy Professor X.
Yeah.
From Days of not from Days of Future Past.
From First Class, right?
First Class, yeah. They showed him in the full First Class outfit from the end of that movie where they deal with the missile crisis. And I guess what year did First Class come out? 2011, it was 2011, I think. And we still have nothing from that. I don't know if they can't get McAvoy to sign off. I don't know if it's a problem with Fox, but
or is it a Marvel issue?
Maybe. I mean, that would make more sense with the
not
way
not wanting product out from the Fox films.
Meanwhile, we have like literally all Mark 42s of the Iron Man figures. It's just ridiculous. And if that's the case, it makes me even more pissed at Marvel Studios, and it dashes my dreams of ever getting a Michael Fassbender Magneto. All right, I wanted to do real quick before we close out the Comic-Con discussion. Jerry, did you have any honorable mentions, something that almost made your list but didn't?
I did. We only touched a little bit on McFarlane's Walking Dead line, and I just thought they're kind of 5.5 inch scale figures. I think it's a weird scale, but their figures just get nicer and nicer. McFarlane still does good sculpting. They still do nice work. And I'm really itching again for them to go out and start doing like their own stuff, or do more stuff like they did when they basically owned toy aisles in the in the late '90s, early 2000s. I would love to see McFarlane jump in again and start getting back and doing like creative and kind of maybe not leading the industry again, but definitely putting stuff out there that was kind of like shocking and interesting, and even if you weren't interested, you had to see what they were doing.
Yeah.
I really liked, I bought my first Tamashii Nations SH Figure Arts figure a couple weeks ago. I bought the Harley Quinn from Injustice.
Those are so pricey.
They are, but I was really impressed. I mean, definitely right now, figure of the year for me when you're talking about, smaller scale stuff. And their Bruce Lee figure is really cool. I mean, just looks like a figure that does some great justice to the martial arts ability and athleticism of Bruce Lee, and so that was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
And of course, as a bit of a wrestling fan, Mattel showed some cool stuff in their WWE Elite line. A lot of it wasn't finished. Some of it wasn't Elite stuff. It was the kind of basic figures. But I was excited that Kevin Owens is on the way, Finn Balor is on the way, and J&J Security are on the way. And I am looking forward to those, I'll be honest.
Was there any Hulk Hogan figures that were announced?
Yes, there were, and we'll see what happens with that, because they work on those figures a long time in advance. Kind of like the whole, even though the whole CM Punk thing happened with WWE, I mean, I know it's not necessarily comparable, but CM Punk figures were still coming out for a while because they worked on those, a year or more in advance.
We're not going to open that can of worms, but I really doubt there's any Hulk Hogan merchandise out there. But you never know. You never know. My honorable mentions were two things. One was the Sideshow Collectibles 1/6 scale Beetlejuice. It was right up there as far as the Keaton sculpt with anything that Hot Toys could ever do.
Okay.
So that one was like looking through the 1/6 scale, stuff for Sideshow, some of it's really good. Some of it's like, might as well not. You're distributing Hot Toys. Like, why are you even trying to compete with your 1/6 scale stuff? But this was legit worthy of anything that Hot Toys could do with Beetlejuice. So that one caught
really
my
cool
eyes.
looking.
The other one, and I bet you're surprised this didn't make my list, Jerry, it was the Dark Knight premium formats. They did one for Ledger Joker and Bell Batman. I love the Ledger Joker one. I thought the Bell Batman pose was kind of off.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're talking about a statue that you can't move. I mean, that's going to be a big detriment to it. But 2 or 3 years ago, I would have had these already pre-ordered or had pre-ordered them as soon as they were up. But I just have so much Nolan Batman stuff, and I love it. It's one of my favorite properties ever, but there's only so much you can take of certain properties, I think.
I feel the same way, that with a movie-based thing like that, you can't exactly do something new with it all the time.
Exactly, right.
You know, there's like one costume, maybe two for each of those movies, and you can only do so much before you're just seeing the same thing in different poses.
Although if they ever do a Nurse Joker, I will probably pick that up. But as far as I know, Heath Ledger's family had something written into the licensing agreements.
Yeah.
To where they never wanted that figure made.
I have heard that as well. So something similar. I'm surprised that the Princess Leia from Sideshow did not make, or Hot Toys did not make it onto your list. Granted, you don't collect.
I don't collect Hot Toys Star Wars.
Yeah, so, but I thought that was a really nice looking figure. I know you showed that the other day on your Twitter feed, and I thought that was a really impressive figure.
Well, my biggest disappointment is my next question for you, and I'll start. I'll give you a second to think about yours. Mine comes from Hot Toys, and it comes from Star Wars. It's a good segue from what you just said, Jerry. The Hot Toys Chewbacca came out, and it was an absolute disgrace.
It's out?
It's not out. It was shown at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm pretty sure from what I've read on different forums that it's in production, that changes cannot be made. And it looked like a Chewbacca Barbie doll from episode 3, like from something that they would release with Revenge of the Sith. It was from the neck down, it's a decent Chewbacca figure, but it's nothing but it's a fuzzball, Jerry. I don't know if you got a chance to see how that in person compared to the shots that they had up on the website for pre-order shots, but
I'm looking at it. The head's a little bulkier than you would expect.
Cow.
Like, you can't see the definition or the shape of his, his skull and his face underneath as much.
It reminded me of the end of Step Brothers. It's not movie quality. That's for sure.
I'm looking at it, and I do think it actually... I mean, I think it looks pretty good, but you're right. When I'm comparing it to their production photos, it definitely looks like... Or not their production photos, their promotional photos, it definitely looks off.
Yeah, it does. It does. And
Definitely
you heard Jerry yawn. We're getting a little long in the tooth here. So, Jerry, what's your biggest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment. My biggest disappointment, I guess, is that... My biggest disappointment is that Hasbro did not do anything to try to alleviate fears of fans of G.I. They showed some G.I. Joe stuff, but it wasn't anything that felt like they had a new vision for the property. It felt like more stuff that was just slapping old parts together with new paint jobs. And they didn't do anything that felt like they were trying to in any way reach out to Star Wars collectors. I understand that they can't share movie stuff. They're not going to talk much about it yet, but there was nothing that felt reassuring. It really felt like we were just kind of waiting for the inevitable to happen, which is that, by and large, collectors are going to be disappointed with what happens with the movie properties. So it was disappointing for me to see that Star Wars so low down on my list that G.I. Joe was not even on my list anymore. For years, G.I. Joe would have been absolutely the first thing that I looked at every Toy Fair, every Comic-Con, every Joe-Con, and now it largely just feels irrelevant to me, sadly enough.
Sad.
Yeah, I'm sad to say that.
All right, so we're going to end real quick between now and the next time we speak to our listeners at probably toward the middle of August. What are your collecting goals? Like, anything arriving in the mail? I know you just got the premium format Batgirl. Anything you just really plan on pre-ordering? What do you got in mind?
One of my collecting goals right now is that we cannot find one of my Masters of the Universe figures that was supposedly mailed out last week, or it was never mailed out. It was the electronic shipping notice was given, but it doesn't ever show the figure going anywhere or leaving the place.
The U.S. Postal Service, or is it UPS?
No. It looks like Mattel. Looks like the next place, the place they give it to, never even received the figure yet. So I'm trying to work that out with Mattel's fantastic customer service, and I'll update on how that happens, how that works out for me. A lot of things I had on pre-order seem like they might be getting pushed back. I was really excited about the Kodabakaya Bishaljo Zatanna statue that was supposed to be coming out here in July, but I've seen some things say that maybe that's going to be September. I am looking forward to, though, the price actually dropped on the 1966 Diamond Batgirl statue based on the Yvonne Craig version. It actually dropped by about $60 or $70, which is pretty unusual. And of course, DC Collectibles is also releasing the black and white Babs Tarr version of Batgirl statue here in August as well. So adding a couple more things to the Batgirl collection is definitely in the plans for August.
Absolutely. Always in the plans for Barbecue 17. My thing is, I'm finally getting I had this signed by Kevin Eastman last year at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a Jeff Proctor variant, limited to 55 copies from the first TMNT movie, Mondo poster. I'm getting it framed at the end of this month. So I'm looking forward to displaying that in my podcast / collecting room here. And it's always a fun first month or two when you first come in and see that new Mondo poster on your wall. So I'm really looking forward to that. But this was definitely our longest episode ever, but there's only 2 episodes, so maybe that's not saying much. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for episode 2 of the Collection Agency. Jerry, anything you want to say to the listeners before we wrap up, or are you good to check out?
I'm good. Just please keep, check out my site, check out my reviews. I'm Barbecue 17. I'm at actionfigurebarbecue.com. So come visit me. Leave comments. I try to review something new every weekday.
All right, yeah, check out actionfigurebarbecue.com for some of the funnest poses on the internet for action figures, and not anything else, I promise. And just go over there, leave Jerry comments, and let him know what you think of his work, because nobody has a passion for collecting and the properties that they collect like this guy, and it really bleeds through in his articles. So I highly recommend Action Figure Barbecue. That's barbecue spelt out, right, Jerry?
BARBECUE.
Exactly. So check Jerry out there. As for me, you can find me on geekswithwives.com. You can find me every Thursday night on the Geeks with Wives and Capes podcast. You can find me on Twitter at The Real Brad Bell, Brad Bell. And until next month, from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, for Jerry Reed and Brad Bell, we are out.